Okay, guys, this is a look at the SGMs that we talked about on Friday. Um, just a little look at how the calculation would work. Mr. Bowman, make sure that you're paying attention. As you can see here, I've got an Excel spreadsheet created. Down here at the bottom, I've got a different tab that we could have for each individual teacher. So in this case, Ron Burgundy teaches health education here at Logan High School. The three assessments that I've used, multiple measures with Mr. Burgundy, the state assessment, the STAR, and also Ames Web, as you can see here at the top. And I've just taken the 15 students that are in his class. Now realize if it's a high school teacher, we've got to decide, are they going to be responsible for one whole grade level or the entire school, or how are you going to do that? But again, that goes back to the local control that we talked about on Friday. So for this calculation, what I've done is dumped in a state assessments for 15 fictitious students, and I'll go over how those values were determined here, as well as those same 15 students' STAR and Ames Web results. Go over here to the Keys tab, and what you'll see here is some ranges for values. I'll start with the state assessment. This uses the old assessment value system, so keep in mind this could obviously all change. A 0 would be assigned for academic warning, all the way up through 4 for exemplary. So going back to the state assessment values, this student obviously had an academic warning, or excuse me, this would be approaches standards. There's no academic warnings here. Student 12 is obviously exemplary. I punch those scores in here, and then I've just got a very simple average function that's dumped in. And then what I've done, because there's 4 values here, I've assigned, that average to divide by 4. If we had 5 different values, we would divide by 5. Because the old state assessment was on 4 values, not including a 0, it should divide by 4 to determine what we consider the percent proficient. So this teacher's individual class percentage of proficiency would be 0.533. I've then done the same thing for the STAR. As you can see, the STAR is much less complicated. With STAR, 1 is for those students that are at or above grade level, and 0 is for those below grade level. I've then done the same thing with the Ames Web, giving the instructor Burgundy 3 multiple measures. What's of particular interest here is our weightings. I've weighted state assessments at 40%, with the STAR and Ames Web equal at 30%. Again, my understanding is this is a local control choice. So if we wanted to manipulate this and make state assessments more important here at Logan or Phillipsburg, we would simply change that to a 50, and as you can see, all of our subsequent calculations will recalculate as well. I'll change that back to 40, and back it goes. Again, the weightings are entirely on a calculated function inserted in this cell, and so the weighted proficiency becomes critical as we determine what weights we want to assign for what assessments. Again, some teachers are going to want certain things probably weighted more heavily. That is a decision between principal and teacher. The teacher, the specific SGM, so the culminating value is simply these 3 values, these 3 weighted proficiencies added together. And so I come up with a weighted value of 0.533. If we go back to our key, that SGM value range falls under what McCrell would consider as the accomplished. Again, these are values that I assign simply dividing by 4. Again, this would be a local control decision, so if we wanted developing to stop at 0.2 and have proficient take 0.2 to 0.5, it's my understanding that would be perfectly acceptable. Okay, so you're going to do this for each teacher, so we would create one tab for each teacher. Obviously, each teacher would then be able to negotiate, so to speak, their individual measures, that is. The one thing I've heard over and over and over again is that state assessments are non-negotiable, so they will be one of the 3 measures for each teacher. The questions we need to answer are, what percent weighting would each measure carry? And again, I don't think there's a set standard. The second question needs to be answered are, what 3 assessments or measures will you use for each teacher? And then the third is how we determine these values. I used a very simple formula that basically assigned a value for a progressive system in the state assessments, and for STAR or AIMSweb, I went with grade level. That's not to say that we couldn't have 5 values in STAR or 5 values in AIMSweb. And so how we rate those values, okay, could change some things. We could, for example, at AIMSweb, go with below grade level as a 0, at grade level as a 1, and above grade level as a 2. Then going back here, we would simply come down here and change this calculation to divide by 3 now, as there be 3 values. Just a little bit on how we would calculate the SGM. Again, this takes, in my opinion, most of the subjectivity out of it, creates a hard numeric value that we could then communicate these for teachers, and that would feed into the at least standard 1, or excuse me, standard 3 A and B of the observation rubric. Take a look at this, guys. Let me know what questions you have. It's all certainly editable at this point. I have not shared this with anyone, and it's certainly something that I think once you have the general rubric or template developed for, it becomes very easy to feed in those results. Let me know what you think. Thanks.